that it works. The line is moving across. Okay, we're here. Yay, we're live. Welcome, welcome. Okay, let's see if I can, no, I don't want to end the meeting. I was trying to move that thing over. Okay, welcome, welcome, you guys. I know this was impromptu. We don't have anything announced, but you guys can check this out at your leisure. But I'm here today to celebrate one of my athletes named Rodrigo Teixeira de Abreu. Did I say it right?
Better than I can.
Okay, so introduce yourself, your age, what you do for a living, where you live.
Sure. So my name is Rodrigo. I'm not going to go with the last name. I'm 43 years old, married. I have 3 kids. I work for a trading company, which means that during the week I am based in the Bahamas, and during the weekend I am back in Miami, where my 3 kids and wife live.
Cool. And let's talk about how I've known you now for 2 years or a little over 2 years, right?
A bit more than 2 years, yeah.
A bit more than 2 years, and you came to Full Circle Coaching. I wanted to kind of recreate the whole journey because the big theme of today is to celebrate your success, number one, because you've had some amazing successes, especially in the last few weeks, and we have one more that we're aiming for, actually a few more this year. But to be able to improve so consistently over a 2 or 2.5 year period takes a few certain things. And so we're going to get to those things, but let's go back to the very beginning when we first met. I think you had done one triathlon before we started working together, right?
Correct. And so I started, it was really not something I was into. I was always into sport, but on a very recreational basis. My previous big sport was skydiving. And obviously with the kids, my wife was less of a big fan of me jumping out of planes while the plane were in perfect order. So I saw an ad for Miami Man, actually it was. And I said, look, I just want to see if I can finish. Went there. I met you because you were the one doing the, as you often do for all the athletes, the pre-briefing race.
Yeah.
And I did the race. I enjoyed it, finished it, and then I thought, okay, let's try to get a bit more serious. I finished 8th at the time of my age group. I had prepared a bit, but obviously not to a great level. And then I started to train more because I registered for a second Olympic distance try, which is South Beach, and I enjoyed myself.
Yes.
And that's when I contacted you. I explained you what I had in mind. And we started to have a more structured training with first a testing phase where not only you check my times, but you also check my forms, my techniques, or you just confirm that I had no techniques on any of the 3, which would then make the job easy, right? Plenty to work on. And that's how we started.
Right. Yeah, so when you first came to me, we did all the evaluations. We had a swim video analysis, we had a bike test, bike video analysis, we did swim testing, we did a run video analysis, and then we did also mobility and strength training, right? An assessment. We just assessed your baseline, 2 years ago, over 2.5 years ago. And then from there, I created your training protocol based for the Olympic distance in South Beach, yeah? And so this was 2019, I guess, right? Because that was the last time we had South Beach try.
Correct.
And that race was a doozy. Do you remember how rough the swim was? Oh my gosh. Yeah. And unfortunately, somebody passed away during that race. That race was no joke. There was super duper wind on the bike. And the run was hot. I did the race myself. So tell us about that experience after training with me for just a few months. I think we had like 4 months together at that point, right?
Correct. I think there the change, obviously my times had improved, but I could start to link. It was still early days, but I could start to link what I was learning or improving on our day-to-day trainings with what happened in the race. And I can point out at a specific example. You mentioned that the swim was rough. It was extremely rough. It was still dark actually when we started, just about starting to get daylight. But as soon as we started the swim as well, the sun was rising, so you couldn't see anything, a lot of waves, and I could see how quickly someone could get into the mood of panicking. And then I got hit by someone on the head, and I couldn't take my normal or get into my normal breathing pattern.
Right.
But I reverted back to all the exercise we do, like the 5-stroke, 7-stroke, 9-stroke, 12-stroke
with no
exercise.
breathing. Yeah.
And I was like, well, but it doesn't matter. I couldn't take my third. On my third, well, I can push to my fifth, even to my 7th, 9th if I have to. So just be at ease with that. So that was really the start of the realization that there was a link, a concrete link between what we were working on and the results and the race.
Yeah, the training, how, because a lot of times, especially as a newer triathlete, there's so much, right? You're learning so much, and you get these workouts on a daily basis, and everything is virtual, right? Because I don't get to see you. We did get to see each other a few times initially, but then it's virtual because you're not with the group class every day. So I don't get to keep my eye on you. However, we taught you how to do the workouts, and then you implement it on your own. And you're wondering, why is she having me do 12 strokes all out with no breath? Like, what is the purpose of that for triathlon, right? And you're not sure. You're just following the instructions like I ask you to do, right? And this is a great example of how that you put that together, right? You're like, oh, now I know why I trained like that, because in a race situation, this is what can happen, right? So that's awesome. But you also had a pretty good turnout. What was didn't you get on the podium?
So on that one, I think that was my first podium. Yeah. I think I was third of my age group. I was happy with that. I will come back to that, I'm sure, but I think that part of the progression further down the line is, it's not a bad thing. It's not a criticism, but you have to move from just, doing the things because you're told, but understanding why you're doing them as well. And that has been, we'll talk, I'm sure, about that as we go through the discussion, but that was a major shift for me.
Exactly. So understanding takes more time, because the more we've had the opportunity to be together for 2.5 years, and that's where we are, like you said, we're going to get to that, but like, you can't keep improving for 2.5 years every single race unless you keep implementing the things that we implement on a next level, right? So after that race, we regrouped, right? But what did you say to me? Do you remember what you said to me when you came off the podium?
I said a few things, so I want to make sure you're gonna have to help me a bit here. Cue me in.
You said, I will never be third again. You said, next time I'm first. And I said, okay, let's do it. Like, I love that, right? Anytime someone comes to me with a big dream, a big goal, I'm 100% on board to get you there, but I'm all about realistic numbers, right? So we looked at your numbers and we said, okay, what did the first place guy do? You actually did this. You looked at the first place guy and you said, okay, here is where I am, and here is where I need to be if I want to be first place in an Olympic distance triathlon, right?
Correct.
But you also had other goals of longer distance races.
Correct.
So there is a little bit of a conflict, because you can't really get fast at the same time that you're going longer. So we had to play with that, but we did retest after that race. We did reevaluate everything, and then we implemented your new numbers, because obviously you were faster and stronger. And then we started training those new training zones, right?
Correct. I think that has been something that, well, first, we still do that. I think that we've never, again, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but we've never tested as much as we do now, and we never recalibrated as much as we do now. But if I go back to your point, I think the first year, because there was so much to improve, that I was really trying to push it on all fronts, and something I discovered later, and I'll make a point about that in a bit, is something like pacing was not even a word I had heard of before. Right. So the first year, if I have to summarize my first year, I was so eager, so keen that I was just pushing in all directions. There were things that I thought were not important. I realized later that they are ultra important, like the strength, the stretching, all these things. I do believe that the marginal improvement I've had this year are thanks to, amongst other things, that the fact that, I understand the importance of these. And then there's also the part about how we build things together rather than just being a one-way street. To the long distance part, we ended up the year with the world qualifier. You started to train me for that, but you were very upfront. You said, Rodrigo, you haven't done we haven't been able to do exactly like I would have liked to do, which is we're going to work first on your strength, speed. That's going to be first part of the season, short distance. And we'll get there in a second. But the end of the season was I felt I had push everywhere. I was exhausted. I did better than I thought for the World Qualifier. I qualified, but I still pushed myself for one more race, and I hit the wall in Cartagena. Yes. I had no speed left on us. So that was the end of the first season.
Right. So you did Miami Man, right, as the half, and then you went on only 3 weeks later to do Cartagena.
Correct.
But you did well in both of those races, right? I mean, you those were your first half Ironmans, right?
But I didn't feel well. I did well, but I didn't feel well.
Right. If they were struggles.
Correct.
Yeah. But you still did a good time. Do you remember your times?
Yeah.
So let's give them some times. Let's go back to, do you know your South Beach time? Because I just like to put that in perspective.
I think I do. I do. I would be lying. I have an app that tells me all that.
Love it. A true triathlete. Okay, so let's go back to what was your Olympic time at South Beach when you got there?
So South Beach was 2 hours and 23 minutes.
2 hours and 23 minutes. Awesome. So really, really awesome for your first official coached, Olympic distance. And then we trained for long course. And we did a few sprints in Olympics, I know, along the way, but we did work on speed and form. We were just working on everything at the same time. But I will tell you, the one thing that I think was really hard for you was the whole concept of the slow aerobic run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So this is something that so many of my athletes come to me and they are like, what are you asking me to do? Like, this is going to make me slower, right? You do not understand in the beginning why you want me to why I'm asking you to run that slow. But wouldn't you say that is potentially one of the keys to your long-term success?
Oh, and at the start of every season, I mean, it's a base. You have to consolidate and have a strong base against which to push. Otherwise, you're pushing in an empty vacuum.
Exactly. So it's creating your engine, right? So, initially, the very first time we started working together, you're like, why are you asking me to run in zone 1, 2? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know if you remember when you finally crossed over and you became more metabolically efficient, which means that you were burning more fat as a fuel source. By running slower, you burn more fat as a fuel source. You actually can have a lower heart rate, and then your speed can actually start to increase, even though your heart rate is staying low. And just like for an example, right now, you can run an hour and a half to 2 hours and your heart rate, average is below 150, no problem. Right? So you've built that aerobic engine. And that's definitely something that you weren't used to. And then for Miami Man, what was your time for your first half Ironman there?
So it was again, disclaimer, I'm not pretending I have that on top of my head. 4:47.
4:47 or 5:47?
No, 4:47, and we were aiming for below 5, and you said it's going to be a stretch, and we pushed it and made below 5.
Exactly. Okay, awesome. And then even though Cartagena we knew was going to be an amazing stretch, so you did qualify for Worlds at Miami Man, so we were happy, but I knew you were tired. Like, I knew you were seriously tired, and it's always a stretch to do another half Ironman. A lot of people do it, but I don't really think it's the smartest thing. But you actually had a good race in Cartagena, but it was extremely hot. Remember, the heat was like twice as bad as Miami Man. And what was your time there?
So I think it was 4 hours and 44.
So you still hard.
Yeah, but and I think that's really the race that now I would never redo the same way. Is I pushed where I knew I was strong, and without thinking about the areas where I had to invest. And we talk about that. It's spacing. Yes. I had my faster ever swim, and the swim I know is the part where I'm good. 2 years ago, for me, I had to be out of the water first because otherwise I would lose the race. Right. And I came out with a very strong swim. I pushed as much as I could on
you were first out of the water, for sure.
I was first out of the water, my pace was incredible. I was swimming at, I think, fastest I had ever done. It was 114 per 100 meters for the 2K. On the bike, I gave all I had, but the run was such a struggle to get to
So
the end.
painful. Yeah, so
And
painful, right?
I'll
And
never do that again.
yeah, we talked about that. So that was like the big lesson. Now we had a whole year to practice because all of 2020 there was no races, right? But that year we were really going to say, okay, now we're going to focus more on pacing so it doesn't have to hurt so bad. And we're also going to focus on strength, right? So we were continuing a whole nother year. And this was really the first full winter I had with you. And I can definitely say that the strength training that you implemented, we did heavier weights, right, for a period of 6 to 8 months. But we also had a little setback there because you did hurt your back. I don't know the timeline in there,
Correct.
right?
You're right.
So there's always, so I keep saying this quote lately, but there's a fine line between fit and fucked, right? So excuse my language, Facebook. But this is what the line we were crossing, because I knew for Rodrigo to improve past that 447 or 444 half Ironman, he has to have strength, right? He has to be doing different things than we did the first year together, right? So I knew that this 6 to 8 weeks of base strength, heavier, was going to help you, but we also had to be super careful. And we did cross the line. There was a time we crossed the line and we had to take care of you, and you did recover, thankfully, right? We took some time off. You did some strength training. You got therapy. And since then, you've been able to manage the strength to be at a place where it's not overdoing it, right? Would you say?
Yeah, very much so. If I can go back to the start of the first full year,
yeah,
it was I thought it was very hard mentally because we trained super hard, fully dedicated for the World Championship. I mean, I had the plane ticket booked and all that, so we started very diligently. We had applied a long strength program. We had the first sprint because you wanted to work on speed. So we had the first sprint at Las Olas.
Yeah.
We did super well there. And then COVID came.
Yes.
And then to find the motivation and keep the motivation was super hard. Then the World Championship were canceled. And I think the good thing is that you and I, although we didn't see each other a single time, because one of COVID and two, I went then to Europe.
Right.
We changed the angle of the training, and I think that's very important. We added a component of fun to take over or replace the competition. Competition wasn't there. There was nothing to look forward to.
Right.
So we continued to train. It was more structural or more, I thought, more technical. We were working because we had time, so we could work on techniques and all these things. Didn't have to be long hours because the volume was not necessarily important.
Right.
And that, when I look back at it, was a massive add to my training, because we were able to do things that we wouldn't do otherwise.
Right. And we also included plyometrics and more things that were different and out of the box that you maybe hadn't had a chance to do that. Like when we're here at my group classes and stuff, we do stuff like that, but you had never had a chance to do that. And then we did a live about that, about how you stayed motivated, because I was just so impressed. There weren't that many people, especially of my athletes, that stayed with me during COVID and were able to improve just because that external motivation wasn't there. And I love hearing about Ryan Hall's wife, because she finally, after 10 years of no success at a race, she finally started to improve, and she won something. She got on top 3, but she talked about how she had to let go of any kind of a reward in her training. And she had to find joy in the training itself. And I love that, because I feel like that was something that you did. You learned how to enjoy the training just for the training's sake, to stay sane, to keep your fitness, and then hopefully look ahead. We had no idea how long we were not going to be able to race, right? So that was one thing that I was so proud of you, that you were able to maintain and do that. And even though we had no races, we would still test, right? We still did our testing. And at the end of 2020, you tested faster than you had ever been, right?
Yeah. Correct.
And that was wow, that's awesome. You found a completely different motivation, because it wasn't race-based. It was just personal improvement. And I love that, right?
Yeah, no, that was it. And then at the end of the year, we could see some silver linings. A few races were about to restart, and that brings us to our current season.
Right. Right. And so we did strength again. We did the same protocol. We were super careful this time, right? We definitely didn't have a back injury this winter, but it wasn't a straight road, right? It wasn't a straight diagonal line up in this spring, but we did have some great results, right? So why don't you speak to that? And maybe the biggest lesson you learned was about the pacing piece. Maybe speak to both of those things.
Yeah, I think when we started this season, I really wanted to be disciplined and have no regrets. It's like I don't know what it's gonna bring, and it's still early in the season, but I want to look back at it and say, you know what, I really did what I thought I could do, right? So the three things is we wanted to get faster, but I wanted to be honest with it. It's not to get faster on everything. So what we did is we reviewed comparatively where I had to improve, and the most was on the run.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the part that you can most improve is normally, at least for me, the part I least want to do. But we were very disciplined. You changed my race plan. We did 2 half marathon before the season started on triathlon. I did another virtual one. We put a lot of work around the running, the pace, the strength on the run, and that paid off massively. That's what now making a difference versus my previous results.
Right.
The other one that I think we're doing very differently is that we hold ourselves much more accountable than before. And I think it's a natural progression in the relationship as well, in that sense that, as you said, initially it's, well, I did things because you told me to do it. Right. And the second stage was, okay, let me try to understand why. And I guess where we are right now is, well, what about this? And I also make my suggestions, and we debate, and I think that's extremely pleasant because it gives an extra empowerment when you're actually training.
Yes, but now that you understand things, you understand the whole training process, what VO2 max means, what anaerobic threshold means, what all those things mean, right? Because you've educated yourself, you've paid attention, you haven't just blindly followed me, right? And the fact that we're just constantly accountable to the numbers, the real numbers, and this is your real life, right? You have kids, you have a family, you have vacation, you have work travel. There's all these commitments that I'm creating for you to fit triathlon into your life. But at the same time, our accountability to each other every 2 weeks is what allows this to be successful, because you're not local, right? You're not local.
And to be honest, I don't feel like it's a 2-week relationship or a relationship that gets checks every 2 weeks, because we exchange much more than that. I mean, each time I have a question about an exercise, we still talk. So
exactly.
The second thing that I think is very different this year is I want to do as little as possible to continue to improve. Whereas in the past, it was
more.
Just more. But in order to do less, it's not like being lazy and not doing it. Don't get me wrong. Smart. I still train a lot, but I want the training to be extremely efficient.
Right.
And for that, I think the things that have changed is so the strength and the stretching. That means that when I get to my training, I can be like on point and do exactly what I have to do. For instance, this morning I had a run session. It was 5 segments of a mile. And I did my warm up and I didn't check my watch. I mean, overall, it took me 43 minutes to do it instead of an hour, but I'm very happy with that.
Yeah,
because I hit my times, I hit my objective, that's it. And then we move on. Because I think that, well, unfortunately, I'm not 20 anymore. And there's something about preserving your body.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
So that was a big learning. And the last one to your question was the pacing. So if I look at my last race, it was all about, swim.
Yeah.
Fast.
So it was the Sebring 70.3, right? So it was a little shorter on the bike. It was a little shorter on the bike, like 3 miles, I think.
Correct.
But our focus this year, for the first time doing a half Ironman, we talked about how do we get a better result, because we've already had some pretty amazing success. So what did we talk about? Let's from your perspective.
Specifically that pacing.
100%.
That idea of pacing and how, it's a bit of a strategic game after a point. You might see people overtaking you on the bike where you think you're very good on the bike.
Yes.
Well, And to quote you, to go back to an example you gave, it might even be a woman overtaking you.
Yes.
You need to let them overtake.
And you have to control your ego, right? Because exactly. I promise you, I guaranteed it, right? I said, I promise you, if you hold back the way I'm asking, not completely, but the way we planned it for each segment of the race, you will have a better result. And it worked, right? So explain the race, explain how it went on the swim, on the bike, and then ultimately on the run.
On the swim, what I normally try to do is to get really in front, because I normally have fast starts and I don't hit people or get blocked, which I did. After the second or third corner, 2 guys did overtake me. That was fine. I was in my pace. My objective was not to be first. Right. It was to respect my pace. It was a loop. So when I got out of the water, I could see how I was doing versus my objective. I was bang on time. So I went back in the water. I didn't rush. Did finish my. Obviously, I'm not like taking
no, you're not strolling.
He's walk in the park, right? Still go fast, but yes. You're not over pushing it. Right. You're doing with what you know. You've trained for that. Right. Then I got out of the water, I got on the bike. Same thing. On the bike, it was all about pacing. And pacing is not only when someone overtakes you, it's also when you have a hill. Yes. You need to push on it. Just preserve your legs. Yes. And for me, the race was a success if by the time I started to run, I wouldn't be in dear pain. Yes. And I wasn't. And I was like, okay, now game on. Game on. Exactly. Now your race is starting. You've done all you had to do. You made the investment. You've been on it for 3 hours. Now you nail it. Yes. And it was very pleasant. That would be an overstatement. No. It wasn't pleasant fun. But you're suffering. Let's be real. You are suffering. You are pushing hard, but it's something you felt before. And correct. That's the key, right? That you have been in this place before. And the mental skills after 2 years are so much greater than after when you first start. So you're able to realize when you're pushing that red line, that where you need to stay, and then to be able to negative split that entire run. And you came away with it and you had an awesome race again. And yeah, going back to the suffering, you do suffer, but I don't know if that makes sense what I'm going to say, but I felt I was suffering in the right direction. Yes. Like I was suffering for faster times, for improved pace. So that was fine. That was exactly what it was meant to happen. The heat was getting worse and worse. So I knew it was all normal, that's what we wanted. And I think that's the big change. Obviously, there's still the road ahead and the learnings, there's still plenty ahead. Yeah. But if there's something that made a huge difference for me was that. Right. And then so what was your result at the race? How did you place and what was your time? So I finished first of my age group. I was 3rd overall and my time I think was 4:32 or something, 4:31. 4:33, sorry. 4:33. So that is an amazing 2.5-year process, if I can say so myself. I am so proud of you for just really, being so present for the whole experience, because that's really all it was. And I truly believe that this is possible for anybody who wants to do and have these kinds of results, right? And I just want to say, I'm so proud of you. I couldn't be more honored that you chose me to be on your journey. And I still feel like the sky's the limit. We do have one more race, right, currently that you're training for. And it's kind of a big deal because it's the French. You're representing France, right? Right. So talk about that, because now you're on the Team USA and you're also on the French team. So talk about that. So I had to choose. I cannot be on the 2 national teams. Right. So I was very grateful to have been selected for Team USA. But because I had the year before I had accepted to be on the French team. Right. I decided to stay on the French team this year. Again, having said that, I was very, very grateful to have the opportunity to be on Team USA. Right. So I'm now preparing for the European Championship, which will be on the 27th of June in Austria. And again, that's where, we train much more scientifically than we did in the past. Now we're changing completely my training because we know that it's going to be hilly, it's going to be cold, and we have to adapt to that. And I can see the training I'm doing now. There's a treadmill with some slope. because we're preparing for that.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to adjust to the conditions that he's going to have on race day, and I'm not worried in any way, and I'm interested to see how the competition will be in Europe. But you actually go there a lot, right? So you do have that advantage where you kind of know the area, and you're going to actually be able to train over there a few weeks before the actual race. So I'm not worried in any way. Well, Rodrigo, thank you so much for telling us about your journey. And if you have anything else to share with anybody who might be listening and thinking about joining Full Circle Coaching, or maybe trying to do a half Ironman. Now, I do have to ask, do you ever want to do an Ironman, a full?
I might, but I don't want to do it just to finish it. And therefore, I can't yet commit to.
Right. And honestly, you know, you have a family, right? You have a family, you have kids, and Ironman training takes a lot of time on the weekends. So there's a lot of reasons why it might not be the right time to do that. But I just was curious about your long-term goals for a longer race. But
yeah, okay, cool. It's exactly it. For now, I don't think I can fit it in my life, but never say no. I'm sure there'll be a day. And to your previous question, the only thing I would say is, yeah, the importance of finding the right coach, of finding the person with whom you can develop a relationship that allows you really to get the best out of you. You need, and it's a two-way street. The coach needs to get the best out of the athlete, and the athlete needs to find a way to get the best out of the coach. And I really think that's well, if you're serious about it, that's key.
The key. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
My pleasure.
If you guys have any questions, reach out. You can post in the comments. If you like this, or if you enjoyed this and you want to share it with anybody, please do so. And if you want to learn more about Full Circle Coaching, please message me. All right. Thanks, Rodrigo.
Erinne, enjoy the rest of the day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.